So let's talk about one of the biggest names in finance, Japan's SBI Group. They're not just dipping their toes in the water, they're making a massive trillion-dollar bet on the future of money. And they're doing it with three key partnerships that are basically building a new financial system from scratch. This is a big deal, and it could totally change how money moves around the planet.
You know, it all boils down to a really simple, almost funny question. Why does money sleep? I mean, think about it. You can trade crypto anytime, right? 3 a.m. on a Sunday? No problem. But if you want to trade stocks, you gotta wait for Monday morning. Doesn't that just feel ancient? And the reality is pretty wild when you see the numbers. Our traditional financial markets, they're closed almost 70% of the time. Yeah, once you add up all the nights, the weekends, the holidays, our super global, always-on world is running on a financial system that's, well, mostly offline. And that's not just an inconvenience, it's a huge bottleneck for capital.
So this gets to the heart of the matter, what we can call finance's 9-to-5 problem. The entire infrastructure we rely on, from the stock exchanges to the settlement systems, it was all designed for a world without the internet. It was built for paper, not for pixels. And that old system, it just inherently creates friction, delays, and you can only imagine how many missed opportunities in a world that, let's be honest, never ever stops. Okay, so if you've got a 9-to-5 problem in a world that runs 24/7, what's the fix? Well, the answer seems to be a whole new financial layer, one built on the blockchain. And look, this tech isn't just about trading Bitcoin. It's about building the fundamental rails for a financial system that just doesn't close, ever. 365 days a year, no interruptions.
All right, so the first big idea you need to get is tokenized assets, or what everyone's calling real-world assets, RWAs. Just think of it this way. Instead of some paper stock certificate sitting in a dusty vault somewhere, your ownership is represented by a super secure digital token on a blockchain. And the magic is, that token can be traded instantly with anyone in the world at any time of day.
Okay, but to trade all these cool new digital assets, you need digital cash, right? And you need it to be stable. And that, right there, is the job of stablecoins. They're pretty much the essential fuel for this whole new on-chain economy. They're designed to hold their value, usually pegged to something like the US dollar, so they act just like a digital dollar. That makes them super reliable for actually doing business.
And the size of this whole thing, it is absolutely staggering. I mean, look at this number. Projections are showing the market for tokenized assets could hit nearly $19 trillion by 2033. That's not a typo. So you can see this isn't some niche little experiment. We are talking about one of the biggest financial shifts of our lifetime. And it's exactly why all the big institutions are scrambling to get a piece of the action.
Which brings us right back to our main story, SBI's triple threat partnership. See, instead of just sitting back and watching this unfold, this Japanese financial giant is getting its hands dirty. They're actively building the railroad tracks for this new economy. So let's break down exactly how they're putting all the pieces together.
So they've pulled in three absolute heavy hitters to make this happen. You've got Circle, the company behind the huge USDC stablecoin. Then there's Ripple, another giant in crypto payments that's also jumping into the stablecoin game. And finally, Startale, which is a super cutting-edge company that builds the deep-down infrastructure for Web3. Each one of these partners has a very specific, very strategic role to play.
And you know, if you look at how SBI is handling the stablecoin piece, it's actually really smart. With Circle, it's a deep partnership, a full-on joint venture to build out a whole ecosystem for USDC in Japan. But with Ripple, the plan is more about distribution, getting its new stablecoin out there through SBI's own crypto exchange. What this tells you is they're not just betting on one horse. They're creating a competitive market right from the start, with multiple options. Pretty clever. But remember, the stablecoins are just the fuel for the engine. The engine itself, that's what they're building with their third partner, Startale. And honestly, this is the most ambitious, the most mind-bending part of the whole plan.
Okay, so what are they actually building? Together, they're creating an on-chain trading platform. And when you look at the features, you really see the future they're aiming for. We're talking true 24/7 trading with near-instant settlement across borders. We're talking fractional ownership, so you could own a tiny slice of a skyscraper or a famous painting. But here's where it gets really sci-fi: composable products. That literally means these digital assets can be snapped together like Lego blocks to create brand new financial instruments that don't even exist today. And they're building it all with top-tier security and something called account abstraction, which is a super techie term, but all it really means is making this crazy powerful tech as easy to use as your regular banking app. This isn't just one piece, it's the whole shebang.
All right, so that's the tech, that's the blueprint. But what's the big idea driving all of this? What's the grand vision?
To really get that, let's just listen to the people who are actually making these deals happen. Their own words paint a really clear picture of the future they're building right now.
First up, Sota Watanabe, the founder of Startale. He doesn't mince words. He basically says the entire financial market is moving from off-chain to on-chain. He sees it as a done deal, and he calls the tokenization of stocks the single biggest opportunity there is, with on-chain trading as the next great frontier. I mean, that's a bold statement from the tech visionary at the center of it all.
But okay, that's the tech guy. What about the old guard? Well, get this. Here's the CEO of SBI, Yoshitaka Kitao, a titan of traditional finance, and he's saying the exact same thing. He calls it a structural transformation that's going to lead to the total digitalization of capital markets, including the big exchanges themselves. So think about that for a second. When the young tech disruptor and the established financial giant are both pointing in the exact same direction, you know a massive, massive change is on the way.
Okay, so we've got the tech, we've got the vision from the people in charge. Let's tie this all together. Let's boil it down to why this actually matters to you and me. Why should we care about all this complex financial stuff?
It really comes down to 4 key things. First, efficiency. A market that's always open is just going to be way more liquid and efficient, period. Second, accessibility. When you can buy a tiny fraction of an expensive asset, it opens up investing to so many more people. Third, innovation. This isn't just about doing old things faster. It's a global programmable system that lets you invent totally new financial products. And finally, convergence. That wall that used to exist between Wall Street and crypto, yeah, it's crumbling down fast.
So at the end of the day, look, this isn't just about shaving a few seconds off a stock trade. It's about building the foundation for a completely new global financial system. A world where any kind of value, a stock, a piece of art, a carbon credit, you name it, can flow as freely and as instantly as sending an email. And that really leaves us with one final, huge question to think about. In a world where money truly never sleeps, where every market on Earth is connected in real time, what happens when every single thing of value becomes a digital asset? The possibilities are just incredible. And yeah, the consequences are going to be revolutionary.